Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Coffee and Contemplation brought to you by Spotlight Recovery. It is May 17th. We've got one today on rehearsing the outcomes. This one has a one-sided focus to it. We're going to try to bring in the other side too and look at both sides, but rehearsing the outcomes as in expecting the worst. Just expecting things to happen before they do. Expectations, shall we say. We shall. So let's get into this. Rehearsing outcomes. Imagination is undeniably a human faculty that accounts for much progress. Compulsive people, however, can use imagination in a most destructive way. One destructive practice is that of rehearsing in our minds the outcome of some threat or problem, usually expecting the worst. While we should not avoid facing real problems, it's wrong to assume that the worst will always happen. This tendency to anticipate the worst possible outcome can actually produce the very outcome we'd like to avoid, thus making it a self-fulfilling prophecy. We can deal with such pessimistic thinking by reminding ourselves that God is in charge and will bring our good to pass in just the right way. If we're going to rehearse anything, let it be an outcome that includes the best for everybody, including ourselves. I'll expect the best today, knowing that all outcomes and results are in God's hands. This inspiration is from Walk in Dry Places. Yeah, so I picked this one just because I like this topic and I really relate to it. I think a lot of us can. I think that title, Rehearsing Outcomes, is interesting. That the word expectations is really what keeps resonating for me. That's what keeps coming to mind, is just around this concept of expectations, be it the best or the worst, no matter what. And so I'd forgot they did turn that around a little bit in the last couple of lines there. But yeah, let's get into this a little bit more. So I like the first mentioning of how great imagination is and can be. And then, compulsive people, however, can use imagination in a most destructive way. Compulsive people who struggle with addiction, that's something we can absolutely just let our minds run away with, and then that just becomes all consuming and wastes so much time, so on and so forth. So I like that they just preface it with that. That's an important and good focus here when they talk about this destructive practice is rehearsing the negative outcome, rehearsing the worst possible outcome. And I'm sure there's some pseudo classic lines that are never that great of oh, I always expect the worst, so I'm never disappointed. And so the result is always better. And these are just defensive mechanisms and application, perspectives to have when there's really just some more work to be done underneath that, I feel. So I don't really resonate them. I don't find them overly healthy or helpful for people. I just like that they dig into that a little bit more as to say why, right? While we should not avoid facing real problems, classic addict move, it's wrong to assume that the worst will always happen. This for me is gold. This tendency to anticipate the worst possible outcome can actually produce the very outcome we'd like to avoid, thus making it a self-fulfilling prophecy. Oh my God. I've just seen it countless times. I've seen it countless times with addicts. I've absolutely had this experience myself. And it's fascinating to watch when you're on the other side of it. Well, because when you've done it, so the behavior because you're seeing it in somebody else. It's behavior that you've done and you see it happening. It's you've heard people say, it's like you're watching somebody walk off a cliff. It's that same kind of feeling when you just see this thing happening. And this exactly lines up with that language from the AA Big Book of alcoholics get tight at exactly the wrong moment. So I think there's just two sides of the same coin, and I completely agree with that too. We talked about that in an earlier episode this year, actually, or this month, within a week, I think we had talked about this. That's just another very typical thing for addiction. So anybody who struggled with it or is related to somebody who struggles with it, I know you've seen it. We've all had that version of it at some point. So we have that experience, and so I like that they talk about it here, specifically in regards to outcomes and expectations. So it's just more recovery application to just other perspectives, other parts of life. These are other areas and ways that we can do this work, improve, shift that thinking, work on this perspective. You know, you've heard me say addiction is a disease of perception. So when we're in addiction, we are perceiving the world through this obscured lens by our disease. So how do we adjust that? Adjust the perspective, right? Same with like a camera lens. You need to do that work to then be able to see things into focus for what they really are. Ooh, that's good. That just came out of me now. I like that. Feel free to write it down. So anyway, yeah, that's where this work comes in for us. And so this perspective on not expecting the worst is great for these reasons of not making it happen, not creating a self-fulfilling prophecy, and then also not, like it says earlier, avoiding facing real problems. And then for the point that I was talking about, not avoiding doing more of this inner work that we can do to then make ourselves and our lives better, right? So there's the one side of it. Then we have the other side that they talk about in the very end here is then expecting the best, rehearsing the outcome of the best possible outcome. This is how things are going to go, and everything's going to be fucking magical. Not always. In fact, rarely. So I don't necessarily like this suggestion at the end. If we're going to rehearse anything, let it be an outcome that includes the best for everybody, including ourselves. I would say take that with a lot of caution, because you can have similar effects here. If you are then having the best expectation, then you pretty much are setting yourself up for disappointment when things don't give you the best possible outcome. Then that's not going to work out well for you, for everybody. I do like that they mentioned the best for everybody. So it's like, hey, quit thinking about yourself. I like that perspective. So, you know, looking at a positive outcome, thinking about a potential that way. But I definitely would warn on rehearsing, having the highest expectation for the best possible outcome. It just, on top of, for the obvious reasons, and I think everybody's had their version of lived experience around that too. The other part as well that resonates for us addicts is that we are pretty used to getting let down and having expectations not met by people, places, things, drugs, ourselves. And so coming into recovery from this history and life path from addiction of feeling constantly let down, well, you're just setting yourself up to get triggered here. You're just setting yourself up to feel that way again when things won't be the best possible outcome, because they usually won't, because life just doesn't go the way you imagine it in your brain. I don't know. I think that's pretty straightforward. Life's gonna life, and it's bigger than you, and it's outside of you. So anyway, I'm glad they mentioned it. Don't like that direction on it. So there's my 2 cents on that flip side of it. And really, the ultimate thing that I'm going to say about this, I think a real healthy goal is to be removing expectations. Just removing expectations entirely. Be it rehearsing the good ones or the bad ones. So there's a difference between having to do a little mental preparation for things that may come. I'm not saying don't be prepared. Being like, hello, I was a Boy Scout, always prepared. Absolutely suggest being prepared, but not having the expectation connected to the outcome. That's another good way to be putting this too. So rather than rehearsing the outcome, prepare yourself for possible outcomes. That's a better way to look at this and go about that. We're going to go with that instead. That's the suggestion that I'm going to make there. So it's kind of a two-parter. There's that one suggestion. This is how you can shift your perspective on that. Maybe look at it that way instead. So there's your first of all. And then the second is generally attempting to remove expectations from your life, I think. Because no matter what, having expectations is the same as comparison. It's lose-lose every time, right? If I compare, I'm going to lose, or someone else is going to lose. So guaranteed loss. And then if I have an expectation, me or the other person are going to lose. So there's a guaranteed loss. So with these two things, removal of comparison, and in this case, specifically removal of expectation, I think it's just a really good general goal and mindset to have. It's not an absolute statement, not doing it all the time. They can be nice, they can be exciting and fun and emotion and thought-provoking for sure, but when we attach too much to them, back to the imagination piece they talk about at the beginning of this reflection, then we can run wild with it, and an addict brain can just, oh my God, we can go 10 years down the road in about 2 seconds, so it's dangerous for us to toy with that. So the attempt at removing that or letting go of that result, I just think is a really good, just general suggestion. That's what I found has been the most helpful for me in work that I try to do with people, just for the ultimate result of continuing to give us a more peaceful life, incorporating more peace into our life, more homeostasis, a more peaceful existence, more balance, aka all the things that addiction is not. So incorporating all of these things in your recovery more. So there's that suggestion. Okay. So there we go. I'd say that's today's episode. I think we're going to finish on that. Yeah. So thanks for stopping by and checking it out. I hope you enjoyed it. I forgot to mention in the description, we've got a written copy of the reflection so you can read it yourself and save it on your phone. And also in that description are all the ways that Spotlight Recovery can support you and you can support Spotlight Recovery. There's a lot in there. You can get more out of this podcast than just these episodes to help you on your journey. So please take a look. Okay, but for now, again, thank you for stopping by. Wishing you a blessed 24 in your recovery with a little less expectation and a little more joy in experiencing the present. And we'll see you again tomorrow.